Jessica Gray, also known as Jess, is a character who appears in Outlast 2. She was a student at a parochial school along with Blake Langerman and Lynn. It is heavily implied that she was sexually abused and murdered by Loudermilch. Plot demo as Blake is roaming the halls of the abandoned school building. He comes across Jessica's locker that is found open and contains a music box, books, pictures, award ribbons, and a note in which she and Lynn have the following discussion. Jessica, hey Lynn, I'm bored. Mr. Kumbubber's still talking about the 30 Years War. Blah 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 Habsburgs. Blah blah. Anyway, I'm not riding home with you today because I've got journal, but I'll call you when I get home, okay? As Blake progresses through the school, Jessica's screams can be heard. He follows the scream, only to find Jessica's hanging body at the end of the hallway. As he approaches, her body is consumed by an unknown entity into the ceiling. Retail: the game begins with Blake dreaming about Jessica. He tells this to Lynn, who hesitantly tells that she hadn't thought about her in ages. Jessica apparently had committed suicide in the 4th grade. It was hinted that she was sad at something. In her suicide note, she specified that Blake should have loved her. Though Blake did love Jessica as his friend. Jessica is best friends with Lynn and they share notes in class and play hangman. Lynn notes that Jessica has had a crush on Blake for a long time. Despite the suicide note, Jessica's hallucinations, though not verified if they are only hallucinations, do not hate Blake. She is always informing Blake when the demonic Loudermilch is coming after him and helping him find alternative routes back to his present. Jessica did not seem to have a good home life. A counselor, Shelley Parham, comments to Father Porkery, who seems to be the headmaster of the school, that Jessica forged her father's signature so that said she could go to school field trip. There are signs she could be a potential runaway. Jessica's mother had tragically passed away from an uninformed accident. Parham mentions her father is said to have a big personality that even the teachers find troublesome to deal with. It can be surmised that he is very controlling, as Jessica had to forge his signature to the field trip to a piano factory, which he did not give permission for. Additionally, Jessica seems to be somewhat afraid of him, as implied when Loudermilch threatens to inform her father of catching her after school, to which she shows visible signs of distress, showing that her father is somewhat abusive towards her. In the game's penultimate scene, we get to know what happened to Jessica. Jessica and Blake are after school in a food storage and Jessica asks Blake some personal questions.
Why don't you go along
Blake
home,
is apparently starring as the Beast in a Beauty and the Beast play staged by the school with Lynn as the Beauty. Jessica teases Blake for not having kissed Lynn yet, which he says he has reserved for the big night. Jessica then playfully tackles Blake and pins him to the ground. It almost looks like she wants to kiss him. However, Blake gets scared and doesn't want to. Jessica respects his feelings and does get off. However, she as a kid makes him say she has won the tackle game and comments he is a pushover and nerd.
Nothing's the matter, but I need you
She
to
takes
leave
Blake's
us.
hand affectionately and starts walking towards the exit.
Everything's okay.
She tells Blake why he
You
is
can
so
leave,
precious
young man.
about it, meaning his first kiss.
Walk away.
Blake inquires if Lynn had asked her to question him, to which Jessica replies she wanted to know first. To this answer, Blake teasingly calls her a nerd as well, which she agrees to. She then asks Blake if she can come over, though she asks first if his parents are around, which Blake says they aren't. Confused, Blake asks why she wants to come over, but she replies, I don't know. They are discovered by Father Loudermilch. Loudermilch strangely tells Blake he is not in trouble yet and tells him to leave but Jessica to stay. Jessica gets scared and pleads Blake to stay, and he listens to her initially. This makes Loudermilch slightly aggressive and he starts being manipulative, though keeping his kind facade. He threatens to call Jessica's father and Blake's parents, to which the children get afraid of. Jessica then gets lost in thought, but Loudermilch touches her shoulders and states that he wants to just make things right and would she pray with him. When he states the latter part, he half caresses Jessica's face, implicating that he have done highly inappropriate things to her while saying that line. Hearing this throws Jessica into a panic and she pleads desperately for Blake to stay. Loudermilch doesn't like this and says to Blake, despite Blake denying anything happening between them, that him feeling shame is evidence that he has done something wrong. Finally, the priest tells Blake to leave on the grounds to stop making the situation more awkward. As Blake is leaving, he hears Jessica scream. She starts calling out his name for help and telling Loudermilch to leave her alone. She starts running away from Loudermilch, who goes after her. Blake follows them to the doors leading to a stairwell. It is there he discovers Jessica, badly
We
beaten
are.
and neck apparently broken and
Okay.
swollen on the
We,
right side.
like,
Loudermilk,
cheek
at the
kiss.
top of the stairs, tells
So,
Blake that the
like,
situation
is
is
she
not
your
what it seems.
girlfriend?
It is heavily implied that
Tell me,
Loudermilk
or
physically and
else-
sexually
else
assaulted
what?
Jessica. When talking to Param, he tells her that Jessica is more sensitive than she ought to be and suggests not sending her to the school trip. So, in many
I got
ways,
you
he
again.
always wanted to isolate her for nefarious intentions. School tapes in the game show that Loudermilk had an unhealthy obsession with her. He also
Try to
rejoices
find
at her
me
death being a way
here.
for him escaping culpability for
This way,
his
Blake.
actions. It is implied that Loudermilk had covered up Jessica's death as a suicide to escape punishment. The chapter Murder Before Suicide in the
Don't
game
worry.
points to it. The reason Blake feels regret is because he stayed silent and didn't tell the truth surrounding her death. Though, at the end of the
I'll
game,
never let
Blake
you go.
realizes he was manipulated by
Never let
Loudermilk
you go.
to stay silent and that it wasn't really his fault. As
The light
Jessica
has
doesn't
gone
seem
away.
antagonistic
Savior,
towards him, this may
listen
confirm
while
his
I pray.
belief. Jessica may
Begging
have
of you
understood that
to
Blake
watch
was
and
not
keep,
completely at fault
and
as
send me
Loudermilk
quietly
had a
to
veiled
sleep.
way of threatening people.
Watchful
This is
Savior,
shown when he
wash
first
away
discovers the duo and
all
tells
I've been
Blake that the
wrong
boy
today.
surely doesn't want to get
Help
into
me
trouble.
every day to
At the
be
end of the game,
gentle,
Blake meets
gentle,
Jessica,
more
though
like
if Blake
thee.
is hallucinating